Today, I'm going to be grading the 2025 Chicago Bears NFL draft class. I am a little bit higher on the draft class, I feel, than most. I feel like there's a mixed bag, and I understand why people may not love the draft class, but I was loving the draft the whole way through. There's only really one pick that I did not like, and maybe I'm optimistic because of the coaching staff or, I think a lot of people were caught up in the idea of getting Ashton Jeanty, and when that didn't happen, it kind of set like the tone for the draft. But to go into the draft with 7 draft picks, leave with 9, including the one that we received from the Rams, and it's their 4th rounder next year, which basically replaces the 4th that we traded for Joe Thuney. I think the Bears did a great job here. There wasn't much I would change, but let's start off with round 1, Colston Loveland. I have it in an A. I have Colston Loveland in an A. I think the tight end 2 position was something that the Bears desperately needed. And when you have a guy like Kmet, who I think is pretty good at everything and doesn't excel at anything, I find it very hard to believe that Ben Johnson was going to be comfortable going into the season with one guy there. And I think Colston Loveland, while some people would have preferred Warren, I was very happy that they chose Loveland over Warren, because I think what Loveland gives you is a lot of teams saw last year how dominant and scary that Brock Bowers can be. And I'm not saying Colston Loveland is a Brock Bowers type of level of talent, but he has the opportunity to be that guy. He has all the physical traits. He has all the skills necessary. And with the way that Ben Johnson is going to scheme him up, play him in the slot, play him in 12 personnel, I just think this opens up so much of the offense. And then with his size, the Bears don't have a pass catcher like that. The Bears don't have a 6'6" pass catcher that's 250. Like, they just don't have that. I think he brings a different type of attitude to the team as well. I think the first 2 picks do a lot of that. I think the Bears have kind of leaned towards players who are softer spoken. They love football, but at the same time, they don't have that. The Bears have never really leaned into the diva aspect of certain players. And I think that's something that has been missing. I think football is a very violent sport. Football is a sport where I don't need every player on my team to be a role model. They're trying to win a very violent game here. And so I think adding a physical guy like a Colston Loveland, who you could tell will probably just really buy into everything that Ben Johnson is doing, is an amazing first overall pick. And he's super young, not first overall pick, first round pick, based on how the board fell, especially with the tackles coming off the board. I think that was a big part of it. Now, next we're going to go into the 2nd pick, Luther Burden III, the wide receiver out of Missouri. I give this pick an A+ because Luther Burden III is a first round talent. Like, he is that dude. Like, if you look at his 2023 production, then you look at it this year, I understand why he fell to the 2nd round, but, and I'm not saying this in a homer way, I'm not saying this in a bias way, Luther Burden III has every opportunity in the world to be the best wide receiver out of this draft class, outside of like Travis Hunter, because he is truly just kind of a special type of prospect that is hard to compare to anybody. But Luther Burden III, guys, if you don't know who he is, he was a 5-star recruit out of high school. He had offers from Georgia, Alabama, but he stuck with Missouri. He's from East St. Louis. Luther Burden III is going to add a whole nother angle to this offense. And they're really putting Caleb Williams in a position where there is not going to be a guy in the field that you don't want to throw the ball to. Like Rome, DJ, Luther Burden, Colston Loveland, Cole Kmet, even Swift out of the backfield. And we'll talk about Monungai later, but that's another pick that I'm really high on. So really good start of the draft for the Bears. I have an A and then an A+. And then we're going to move into one of their second round picks, their second round pick, Ozzie Trapilo, the tackle out of Boston College. Now, he plays left and right tackle. Much better pass protector than he is a run game blocker, and that's got to do with his height. He's 6'8", 315 pounds. I gave this grade a B because realistically, what I can see happening, well, actually, I don't want to say realistically. This is just a hypothetical that I think they're thinking about. I think they want to get their best five out there, and I think they have their interior locked down. But I think there is a lingering question that possibly we move Darnell Wright to the left side and we have Ozzy Trapilo play right tackle. Now, I don't really like the idea of moving people around, but I will say it would solve our tackle issue, because that is kind of the biggest thing out of this draft is they need to still add some edge help or some D-line help. But what is the situation at the left tackle? Because the more and more I think about it, you really cannot just depend on Braxton Jones to be your left tackle of the future. You can't bank on him being healthy. And the reality is there's tackle versatility with Ozzy Trapilo. He's played both sides, and I would not be surprised if Ozzy Trapilo was the starting left tackle at some point this year. I think they know what Trapilo is. They know that he's just this massive, massive pass blocker. And I think they're okay with that. Like, I think they understand what he is, and they're not going to try to turn him into this dominant run blocker, everything like that. Like, he is a big dude, and I think because of his experience at Boston College playing both spots, at best, he's your starting left tackle. At worst, he's a backup swing tackle that can play both sides. And then you have Braxton Jones for one more year. So I do really like this pick. I'm glad they addressed it early, and I'm glad they identified the guy that they really wanted. Now we're going to move to Shemar Turner, who is a little bit more interesting of a prospect. He was on the Texas A&M line that had Nick Scourton, that had Shamar Stewart. So a lot of D linemen from this school went. Now, Texas A&M, what they did and how they built their defensive line is they just threw a ton of athletes on it. And that's where the situation where these three pass rushers, they didn't have a ton of production. Now, Scourton had more production at Penn State, I believe, but when he came to that Texas A&M defensive line, it just seemed like these three guys, they had all the skills in the world, but they just never got it going. Now, it's funny because they drafted Shemar Turner as a defensive tackle, but if you look at the Bears depth chart, they're actually listing him as an edge, and I could see it because Dennis Allen does like the bigger edges, and he is 300 pounds. Now, he is somebody that you can move interior as well inside, so I wonder if they like that flexibility. I gave this pick a B because Shemar Turner athletically, it makes sense. And they're not asking him to be the number one pass rusher. If they can develop him, he has a motor, and he is one of those guys, like kind of like a Luther Burden. Like, he's got some attitude to him. He's got some drive to him. He's got that want to him. And I think if he can hone in and learn from a guy like Grady Jarrett, this can be one of the better picks in the draft. And I really think the Bears did an amazing job on the first 2 days. I think they really added some. I'm not going to say guys that are not every guy is going to come in and be incredible day one, but I think for the foundation and building blocks of the Ben Johnson, Ryan Poles year one experiment, I think they hit it out of the park. And now this is going to lead to my least favorite pick in the draft, the fourth round, Ruben Hippolyte II. I gave it a D-. And the reason I gave it a D- is because I understand the consensus board had this guy unranked, and I'm not saying that's why I gave it a D-. But to me, this was a massive reach for a guy that you don't know what he's going to be, and a fourth round pick could have been a real pick that could help secure a roster. Now, I understand they went with interior offensive line later, and maybe they had, and they did let the board come to them apparently, so maybe they just had Hippolyte graded really high. But in my opinion, this is a linebacker who consensus didn't have a draftable grade. Some guys had him in the fifth round. I still think it was very early. Now, I've seen the idea floated out there that, because he's 5'11", he's got 4.42 speed, that possibly they can convert him to a safety. Now, I don't hate that idea, and I can understand maybe what they want from Hippolyte. My issue is less with them taking him and more of the guys that they could have got at this pick in the 4th round, because there's still some times that you can get, in my opinion, quality players in the 4th round to make a difference. I don't have the draft board in front of me. I could tell you who I would rather take. I'm not in the front office. I don't have their board. I don't know what they wanted. Maybe they saw this as a steal. Maybe they thought they identified a guy that other people weren't looking at. But to me, this kind of strikes me as the smartest guy in the room pick, and I don't like it at all. I gave it a D-. I was close to giving it an F, but I want to give this guy a chance. Next, we have Za Frazier, the cornerback out of UTSA. I gave it a B because he is 25, I believe, but he has the traits. He has the length, he has the size, he has the speed, and my thing is, I think you need some competition in the cornerback room. Now, he did have 6 interceptions last year. Now, I know his best stretch of football came against some pretty weak competition, but I am really confident in the Bears cornerback coach, Al Harris. He identified this guy. He thought that he could be a difference maker for the Bears locker room. And the idea is, I mean, you have Kyler Gordon, you have Jalen Johnson, you have Tyreek Stevenson, you have Terrell Smith. Throw him in there. See if he can win some reps. If you're going to pick a corner in the 5th round, mind you, that's when Jalen Johnson was drafted out of Utah. Utah or Utah State, one of the two. No, Utah. This is the type of guy you want to take a chance on. You want to take a chance on this guy that is ultra athletic, even if he's older. I don't really care about the older prospects because at the end of the day, how likely are you going to get a second contract guy out of your 5th, 6th, 7th rounders? It's not a ton. It's not likely. It's not these guys' lifespans and no disrespect to them, but their lifespan in the NFL is short. So I would rather take a guy who is a little bit more developed, who can contribute right now. And if Al Harris, after what he did in Dallas with those quarterbacks, thinks they have a guy here, I'm 100% okay with it. And especially with the traits that this guy has. Next, we have Luke Newman, the left guard, I believe, out of Michigan State. I have him as a B-. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I watched a lot of Luke Newman tape. It's more about the idea that they went back to the offensive line well, and I understand it was in the 6th round. I don't care. They added 2 offensive linemen that they feel like can help their team, and that's what they needed, right? I really wish... I have this draft graded highly, but if they would have took another D lineman instead of Ruben Hippolyte, I think this draft would have been like one of my favorites of the last couple years. I'm not going to lie. I really like what they did here. But anyway, back to Luke Newman. You have Ryan Bates. You have, let's see who else they got at depth. They have Doug Kramer Jr. They have Ryan Bates. They have Bill Murray. And then they have Ricky Stromberg, of course. But I struggle to see Doug Kramer on the roster. And then Jordan McFadden, no. Chris Glazer, no. If Ryan Bates can at least be healthy this year and they feel confident as a backup interior guy, I like that, right? I was really hoping they'd take a swing on Jared Wilson, the center. And I understand you don't necessarily want, I guess my thing is you pay dumb and you want him to be healthy, but Jared Wilson, Pat's got him. Pat's, in my opinion, had one of the best drafts in the league. There's going to be teams kicking themselves for not taking Jared Wilson. I really think he would have been an amazing addition to this room. But yeah, Luke Newman, like I said, for what he is and what they hope he can be, I like the pick. I like that the idea of they're going back to the offensive line after already adding a tackle. Final pick, Kyle Monangai out of Rutgers. Everybody, I think, like I said, everyone was caught up on Ashton Jeanty, and everybody wanted the Bears to take a running back and them in this deep class. And that's all that was talked about in the pre-process. Kyle Monangai at, 233 in the 7th round. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. He's a running back out of Rutgers. He does not have breakaway speed. He does not have that breakaway speed, but this is somebody who is going to run through tackles. He's going to break tackles. You can run him up the middle. He's actually pretty shifty when he's in open field, and he can make people miss. I'm a big Kyle Monangai fan, so I have it rated as a B, and you may not like it. And maybe it's a little bit of bias here, but I just think for what the Ben Johnson offense, what he can be, I'm now that I'm thinking about it, I'm so glad we did not draft a running back higher. Like, now, yes, like Quinshon Judkins or Travion Henderson would have been difference makers, but I just don't think that it would have made that big of a difference if we took one in the 4th compared to the 7th. I understand that there's a talent drop off there, right? Like, I'm not saying there won't be better players. I'm just saying for what the Bears are trying to accomplish in this draft class, I'm completely okay with this strategy, and I really like it. Kyle Monanga, I think Bears fans are going to love him. When you watch how he plays, when you watch how he runs downhill, and after having to watch Swift last year, it is such a refreshing watch of football. So with that said, I mean, I want to give this Bears draft like a B+. I feel like there's a lot of mixed emotions on it. I feel like a lot of people don't love it. I feel like there's some people that like it. There's some people that hate it. I personally love the draft, and I'm okay with being the highest person. Maybe I am just excited about the new regime and what they're trying to bring, but I see the vision in this draft class. Like, I understand it. The Luther Burden pick is my favorite pick. I was huge on Luther Burden last year. I love Luther Burden. I think the idea, the Bears never draft players like Luther Burden. Like, this to me shows a change in what they want to be and who they want to become. Like, okay, let me try to explain how I'm viewing the Ozzie Trapillo pick too before I wrap it up. You look at guys like Orlando Brown Jr., right? Like, there are guys in the league that are they are pass blockers. Like, they can run block, but they are pass blockers. Getting just a massive tackle on your left side that can defend the pass well, that's what they wanted. It is so clear that's what they wanted in their left tackle. And I can't be mad. I like the idea of going and getting this massive guy to pass block. Like, they'll figure it out in the run game. They can run 12. That's why they have Colson. That's why they have Kmet. They can help him on those run blocks. Like, do you just have a massive figure protecting Caleb Williams' backside? So I love this draft. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comments your favorite and least favorite pick. Leave a like. Be sure to subscribe. We'll be back with more videos this week. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.